This is an unusual occurrence between a dangerous animal and a horse. Unusual events like this are very rare to come by and could be mistaken for folklore. Science is yet to fully understand the behavioral patterns of all the animals in the animal kingdom. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. A farmer in Siberia had seen a lynx enter his property one night. Lynxes were known to be ruthless. They render their victims helpless with one swift bite and a snap to the neck. He was very worried and scared for the safety of his family. The farmer also had horses and other small animals, so he stood guard until the lynx left a few hours later. The farmer went in haste to check on his animals. He found them safe and unharmed. It was almost like the lynx never came. The farmer found the lynx's behavior very strange. The farmer was wary of its mission on his property, so it sought to find out. Like every other night, the lynx visited. The farmer was astonished at what he saw next. The farmer lived in Siberia with his family, but a large number of the community were farmers at large. Predators often preyed on their livestock. One of such predators was the lynx. A lot of families had to relocate to preserve their livestock and families. Other families that stayed didn't have many weapons to defend themselves against the predators. The village sought ways to monitor the lynx and capture it in its lair. The villagers suspected that the female lynx may be a hunting mother hunting for its cub. The local authorities were informed of the villagers' dilemma. They swung into action immediately and devised means to trap it. 1 year later, the animal returned to terrorize the villagers further, and this time it was more reckless and braver. It prowled the streets in broad daylight and was not afraid to be seen or captured. The villagers were frightened of the daring behavior of the lynx. What he saw that night went against everything he knew and believed about predators. He told his family of this strange visit. The news reached the village as well. Local authorities got wind of the villagers' gist of the strange visit, but dismissed it as a joke. The news persisted, and soon the authorities were curious to ascertain if the news, spreading like wildfire, was indeed true. The farmer shared the details of his observations. The lynx will visit every night at p.m. and leave after an hour or two. The wife also confirmed the story of her husband, the farmer. The lynx will come every night to cuddle and spend time with one of the farmer's horses. The story was still considered strange and impossible, but there was video evidence. The lynx missed its mother and was craving a nurturing presence. The farmer will find the lynx curled up next to the horse. It didn't hurt any of the other bulls, but they still fled in fear when it came around. The horse didn't seem to mind its presence. It will lick the lynx when it curls up next to it, and it will purr, then run its nose at the horse. The farmer found this event very interesting and didn't want to discourage the lynx from coming around. But the wife feared that the lynx might soon realize its real nature and endanger them. So they sought the help of the authorities so the cub can leave their properties and animals forever. The farmer's wife phoned the local authority to inform them of their dilemma. But the cops found the farmer's wife's story a worthy joke and laughed after listening to her. The farmer's wife urged the local authorities to come investigate, but the authorities settled in the next night to investigate. The lynx had sensed their presence and had entered the barn through a different route. It took a while before they realized it was all ready. They burst into the barn with weapons to capture the cub, but it escaped. The next night the authorities returned to catch the lynx. They took their positions on the roof this time around. They saw the lynx enter the barn. It went to the horse to cuddle next to it. The authorities didn't know what to do with the situation at this point. The lynx didn't harm the animals or destroy anything, but they were worried it would turn on the farmer and his family. The authorities were still in a dilemma as they had no reason to harm the lynx. Although it didn't hurt any of the animals, they didn't want to let their guard off, so they decided to consult the village elders and seek their advice. The village elders listened to their narration with rapt attention. After listening to their story, they were awed themselves. They couldn't believe it at first, but soon they did. After a lot of going back and forth, the elders finally settled on doing what was right. They agreed that it was only a matter of time before the predatory instincts of the lynx kicked in. If they didn't take any action, it could endanger the lives of not just the farmer's family but also the community. The elders told the authorities to capture the lynx as they had previously done with its mother. The authorities devised a plan to trap and send it off far away as they had previously done with its mother. The trap plan was very simple. The authorities used a goat as bait to lure the lynx. They were hoping its predatory instincts would kick in to take the bait so they could capture it. However, when the lynx arrived, it played blind to the presence of the goat, and it went straight to the horse to cuddle as usual. The lynx had just refused a free meal. The villagers at this point did not want to harm the lynx. The lynx had proven yet again that it was not after their animals. The horse continued to nurture the lynx for weeks. The farmer was starting to worry that the horse will miss the lynx when it was gone. The authorities devised a new means to capture the lynx. They will shoot it with a sedative and transfer it someplace very far away from the village. The villagers followed up with the happenings at the farmer's properties. The villagers had hired a hunter to shoot the lynx with the sedative. Everything was set as they waited for the lynx to show up, but the lynx never showed. It seemed to have sensed that he was endangered, so it didn't come around to visit the horse again that night. The villagers were both sad and relieved, but soon news reached the villagers that a lynx was terrorizing the neighboring village. The lynx was said to only attack their dogs and no other animal. When the news reached the farmer and his wife, they regretted the actions they took to get rid of the lynx. They feared that the lynx had become vindictive. The farmer's family missed the lynx's visit as they had gotten used to it. Even the horse missed the lynx it tended to every night. Soon, just like an answer to their prayers, the lynx came back one night. The farmer was happy to see the lynx visit. He stood guard to monitor the activities of the lynx. The lynx stayed with the horse longer than usual this time. It was a goodbye visit, but the farmer didn't know that. The lynx left at dawn and never returned since then. The farmer looked forward to more visits, but the lynx never returned. Local officials reached out to wildlife experts to recount their experience with the lynx. The only way they could explain this was that the lynx had formed a bond with the horse before its predatory instincts were fully developed. The tale of the horse and the lynx is passed on as a tale of love and upbringing among the villagers to this day.